Hey guys, Cameron here with Emerson Property Management. Every week I bring you tools, tactics, strategies, lessons learned, things that help me build a size of run portfolio in about 2 years and now manage that portfolio. If you guys didn't know what what I said there, just go back and watch any other video. It's the same tagline in every one. I have to make this interesting. Today, it's part two of common repair and maintenance costs. So if you guys missed part one, I walked through all these first 4 or 5. They're more improvements, but I talked through all those and where I got those numbers and how we come up with that. And now I'm going to get into the second half of them, which is more maintenance related stuff, some improvements, but more maintenance. So again, if you didn't see part one, I'm sure it's up here, and check that out for the first half. Now we'll get into this second half. Okay, tree removal. So guys, this is something that I've been stressing to the owners. It runs you about $500 to $1,500 to remove a tree. So this is something, like I said, I've been stressing with the owners. So obviously we have hurricanes in Houston. If you have some big trees that are leaning up against houses, it's always a good idea to get those taken off. One, because if you have a storm like we did, I had an owner who a tree fell on the house. We had tenants in place. Thankfully, the tree didn't fall through the house. It just tilted enough where it damaged the roof. Not too bad, but still definitely a scary situation for the tenants. Definitely could have hurt somebody. It was near a bedroom, and it's just not one of those fun situations you want to go through. So get them taken care of. If they're leaning up or towards the house, get them cut up. A lot of insurance companies will actually make you cut any branches hanging over the house. The other side of that is once you get those trees cut back, you won't have to clean out your gutters. So, people want to sell gutter guards like they're the best thing since sliced bread. Pine needles get in them, other things get in them. You still have to clean them off every now and then. So they're not, the best thing ever. They're great, but they can still get clogged up. And guys, if you have trees hanging all over the house, your gutters get filled up. Then you got to pay somebody to take those off. You cut the limbs back, the trees grow. Then you got to cut them back every year, and you're paying somebody $200, $300, $400 to do some of that. Just get the trees down. So $500 to $1,500 is about what I've paid. I actually had a quote for $4,000 not too long ago with the house I was just talking about where the tree was leaning up against it. So make sure you watch out for the scumbags. There are scumbags out there. So always get 3 quotes, especially with bigger items like that. The next one, this kind of leads into this other one. So gutters and downspouts. I think I just had that. Yeah. So gutters and downspouts, you're going to look at about $5 a square foot. So what does that mean? That means linear feet. So if you have a 20 by 20 building, that means 20 feet in the front by 20 feet in the back, and you're doing gutters on all sides of that, be 20 in the front and back, it's 40, 20 on each side, that's 80. So 80 times 5. That's how much money you would be spending on gutters, right? That's $400. Okay, stay with me here. Math. The other kicker though, so that's linear feet. That's just the gutter. The downspout also goes from that gutter to the ground. So that could be, if you're on a single story, 8, 9, 10 feet. If you're on a 2-story, it could be 15, 20, 25 feet, depending upon how far you have to go. So you got to factor that in as well. But about $5 a square foot is good. 5-inch gutters is what you want to go with. That's residential. It's pretty common. If you have something that is a really steep roof, you might want to have to go to the 6-inch commercial stuff, but 5 inches should be good. And then 3x4 downspouts. Those are the bigger downspouts. They're a little bit nicer. The 2x3 are the small ones you see. That's 2 inches by 3 inches. They don't handle a bunch of water really well. So the 3x4s are a little bit better for you there. And I always recommend going with those. So gutters, downspouts, and why do we put those in? Guys, negative drainage or proper drainage. So negative drainage is when water runs towards your house. A positive drainage is water runs away from your house. In Houston, we don't have basements because of the clay swelling. So if you guys ever look, it's so funny. You'll walk by and people's landscaping looks all boogered up. Well, it's right underneath the roof and there's no gutter on there. So the water just runs off the roof and tears up the landscape and they wonder why they can't keep it looking nice. a good gutter up there, let alone does that damage all the landscaping. And you guys can see along the sides of houses too, you'll see like a little divot like this ran all the way up and down the side of houses. That's because there's no gutters. So make sure you get gutters and good downspouts, and make sure that downspout goes away far enough out that it pushes water away from your house. Now, you guys might be thinking, well, who gives a shit? It's a slab on grade. There's no basements in Houston. You could get pier and beam, but who gives a shit? Well, if the water sits under there, if you're pier and beam, it can actually wicker up. And pier and beam basically means it's sitting on joists, right? It's elevated off the ground maybe 1 or 2 feet. So if water pools underneath there, it can wicker up and basically damage your subfloor if it's not waterproof subfloor. So that can create issues. I've seen that happen a couple times. So and you might have to get in the French drain to get proper drainage, but good gutters and downspouts should handle the majority of those issues. For slab on grade or houses with basements, you'll get water intrusion into a basement or a finished basement. That's not a fun situation. And against a slab on grade house, it just eventually erodes your foundation over time. That swelling and contracting, and then the erosion, those divots that it creates right next to the foundation, damage the integrity of that foundation. So then you might see some slippage and stuff. Just get somebody, put some positive drainage in there, make sure you got the proper gutters and downspouts, and you'll be good to roll. Now, HVAC. You're going to be looking right around $5,000 for HVAC. That's a total replacement. HVAC replacement is going to run you right around $5,000. Now, when you do an HVAC replacement, you can get them down, $2,500 if you're doing a smaller system. But make sure you get them to replace the service lines, which are the copper lines that run from your outdoor condenser unit into your air handler. If you can, get them to replace the ductwork. You don't have to do that. The ductwork are the basically tubes that run into all your vents. So those vents are what disperses the air throughout the house. They go into, the condenser conditions the air and cools it, pushes it up into your air handler, which in Texas, you'll have them in the attic or maybe in some random closet. And then that air handler through the ductwork pushes all the cold air into all the rooms. So if you go up in the attic, you see all these silver tubes run all over the place, or metallic tubes, that's your ductwork. So if that has a bunch of holes and stuff in it, you might have to get that replaced. But if you're going to replace an AC system, just look at about $5,000. Now, something I was talking about before is what we're doing, what we do during turnovers. And one of those things is service the HVAC system. That costs you somewhere between $75 and $150. Now, what do they do during servicing? They'll check all the drain lines. They'll check the drip pan. They'll check to make sure that the system's functioning, that the differential is good between where the air that's coming in or into your unit and out of your unit has a proper differential. It's not losing too much. There's all sorts of stuff that they check for. Now, the fancy companies will have a litany list of 30, 40, 50 items, but the real big thing is make sure your drip pan is dry underneath the air handler. Make sure your drain lines are dry or not plugged, because if those get plugged and it's in the attic, it could spill over, and then that's when you walk into a house and you see a leak or a damp spot in the ceiling. You go up and your AC unit is full. The drip pan's full. Well, the drain line's plugged. And that's a stupid, easy fix. They'll check that stuff and prevent it. We like to do it during the turnover so we don't have to do it with a tenant in place. Because when a tenant comes in place, the summer, they don't like it being 100 degrees and not having air conditioning. So we always do that. Budget somewhere between $75 and $150. It's a good money well spent. Dryer vent line, yeah. So dryer vent line is going to run you somewhere between $100 and $200. Now, you guys are probably saying, well, what dryer vent line? Why do I need to do that? Well, guys, the dryer vent lines, dryer lint is the leading cause of house fires in the United States of America. Believe that or not. I thought that was crazy when I heard that, but that lint is just like, it's the best, campfire starter there is. So we like to do between turnovers, just check it. You don't need to clean it every single time, but just look at it, because sometimes that tube that comes out of your dryer goes straight into the wall, and the wall goes straight outside. And there's just those little flappers on it, like you'll see those little flaps where they hang up, Or you'll be stepping outside and you smell dryer, like a fabric softener or dryer lint or whatever. Well, that's that dryer vent line blowing. Those you don't have to worry too much about. It's the ones that will come out of the dryer and run straight up like into the attic and over. Those will create some issues now. Those can very much create some issues. So just check those every now and then on the turnover. Expect, they'll have machines and they'll have these little wickers and they'll run through it and pull it all out. Just do that every once a turnover, or just check it. We have it in our process to check to make sure they're okay, and expect to pay $100 to $200. Smoke detectors. I think we'll put on here. Yeah. So the next one's smoke detectors. Guys, Texas property code, we have to have them in every bedroom. You have to have them in the hallway or corridors leading to multiple bedrooms. You have to have one on each level. And yeah, they need to be in proper working order. You want to test them before you go in. You want to test them to make sure before a new tenant gets in. If you don't have one working, you need to install one. Guys, I don't know why smoke detectors are so expensive, but you're looking at between $60 and $70, $80 for a freaking smoke detector. So $100 with install, that's about what you're going to pay. You might be able to get them a little bit cheaper, maybe not, but expect about $100 per smoke detector. And again, that's a good process to implement, to check it before a tenant gets in there, or during your walkthroughs, just go through and test them all. Another tip is send an email to the tenants when the clocks change. So twice a year to test the smoke alarms. When they set their clocks back, test your smoke detectors. That's the easiest way to do that. Okay, another thing we have to do during our turnovers, Texas property code requires that you rekey the property. Rekey, and that's going to run you about $150 to $250. You have to have, I'm not going to get into all the whole code, but one of the big ones is you have to have seeing eye holes on all exterior doors. So if you don't have a glass on one of the exterior doors, you have to have a peephole or an eye hole. That includes the garage door. So that's one that comes up that gets everybody a lot. And then the other side is you have to have a keyless deadbolt entry. So you guys know what the deadbolt is, where you turn it and it has that big piece of steel that goes into the wall or into the door jamb. It's just that big piece. Well, that has to be keyless, meaning you cannot access it from the outside. So inside, you should be able to lock the keyless deadbolt, and there's no keyhole on the outside so nobody can get in. You have to have that on all exterior doors and the garage door. Depending upon what you have to do, I've seen it run $400 and $500 to rekey a property, but the average is going to be $150, $250, and Texas property code requires you to do that between all tenants. Pest control. This is going to be the same charge, about $150 to $250. We do pest control between tenancies on all of them, get a little certificate. So when old Susie Q moves in and says, hey, guys, there were never this many roaches. We never had this problem. You guys, this was at the property. I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. It's filthy. We already have a certificate from the pest control company that says this property was free of bed bugs, roaches, blah, 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 all good, sprayed for everything. The tenants are good. So ongoing pest control is the tenant's responsibility, but we always do it during the turnover to make sure that that tenant gets a clean slate. So they can't come back to us and say this was an existing problem. That never happens. Guys, I've talked for a long time here. Again, if you guys want to see part one, that is where I covered these ones on this side. And then part two is basically where we went over some of the more preventative maintenance stuff and things we do on turnovers. I hope that was helpful. If it was, let me know. If it wasn't, let me know. And if you guys think there are any other items on here you'd like to see or have questions about, just comment below. Thanks, y'all. See you next week.